Okay, Proverbs chapter 1, verses 1 through 6. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice and judgment and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase in learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. So these first 6 verses is basically an introduction to the purpose of Proverbs. Why was this book written? Why are Proverbs even spoken? They give wisdom and instruction. And it also helps us when we have these sayings in our hearts. It says to perceive the words of understanding. And so what happens is that when you read and you digest the wisdom and the philosophy, maybe you could say, behind the logic or the ideas that are expressed in these proverbs, that you will gain a perception to what is truly understanding. Like you'll perceive words from people. You'll know who is speaking truth. When you have these, you'll know who is speaking words of wisdom. You'll know, basically, like, you'll be able to discern intelligence, in any situation, to receive instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment and equity. So in Proverbs is an amazing book to do a topic study on these things, whether it's wisdom, whether it's justice. What is justice? How do we know if something is just? What's the difference between someone who murders for money versus somebody who murders in self-defense, or somebody who murders, like a father who kills their daughter's like abuser or something like that, right? There's an understanding that there should be a different measure of like justice or weight to the offense, versus like the hired hitman who just kills for fun, or the psychopath who doesn't even need to be paid to kill. So so it is in these proverbs, or in the words of the wise, that we can develop essentially a language and a radar to hear and discern what is actually being said in the world around us. Verse 4, it says, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. So this is, again, a purpose of the book of Proverbs, is that there are many simple people will know they're simple. They're like, man, I just want to keep it simple, man. That's too complicated. That's too stressful. I'm gonna stay out of that, right? They have a very relaxed attitude to them. They don't like the drama. They don't really want to work. They're kind of lazy. But to give subtlety is also like tactfulness. So a simple person who is just like, man, I just don't care because I don't care. They lacked tactfulness. You're going to offend people. People are going to hate you. Like, there's a certain way, even then, that could benefit simple people, know when to care, when not to, what things you should turn, a blind eye to because it's not that serious, versus certain things where if you turn and you do nothing, you are complicit. These things, that's what subtlety is, that discernment, a discretion. And it kind of echoes it right after the young man, knowledge and discretion, right? Because simple people don't want to think too hard. So they're really kind of on that young man, or like, youthful, naive state. Simple people want to preserve that simplicity regardless of their age. And that's not really, they need subtlety, versus, young kids, I mean, just by default, because they haven't lived through much, had much time in this world, they don't live, and it all varies with different people, but they're associated. So the simple and the young are basically associated with naivety, or, just kind of ignorance, basically. One willfully wants to be ignorant out of laziness, and the other just, they don't know what they don't know. Verse 5, a wise man will hear and will increase in learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. And so here it separates, like in the Proverbs, a wise person actually kind of hungers for that understanding, and they know there is safety and wisdom, and so they're open-minded. They're like, they know there's more to the story, and they want to listen, and because they hunger for that knowledge, they will learn. They will increase in their learning. And a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel. So basically that is, when you understand certain things, you're basically a teacher, because once you can understand something, you can impart that. People will seek your guidance. And you'll see this throughout Proverbs. Proverbs basically highlights 3 levels of knowledge or information. Like, so there's knowledge, general knowledge, information. And then there's wisdom, which is more of a deeper, it has a further foresight. You can attain wisdom, whether through experience. So it's like, listen, I did that before. I know exactly what's going to happen, right? Don't do it, right? So wisdom, either through experience, or you have heard stories of people, our parents, grandparents, other people, testimonies, and it's like, yeah, that's a consistent, I heard it from that guy and that guy, and you gain wisdom from hearing basically patterns of things that happen in life. And then there is understanding. The person of understanding is basically fit. They will attain a position where people will want their advice. You will seek advice from someone that you're like, man, this person understands more than likely, either has a history or has a background where they understand what I'm going through. And so maybe they can give me advice. And so that is what that means. A man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. And so the purpose, again, this is highlighting the multiple purposes of this one book alone. I absolutely love the book of Proverbs. Is when you can understand a Proverbs have different, they can be understood from different angles, so to speak. And once you realize kind of like I don't know what it's called, like the idiom, or like the slang, or the way Proverbs work, they kind of have a dual edge, and so oftentimes proverbs or sayings of the wise can be, for something good, but it's also code. People that do mischievous and illegal bad things will often speak in code, and somebody who is wise in proverbs will be able to decode or discern these dark sayings, what people are saying in the dark. And so an example that I can give is that when you are a young kid and you have parents and uncles and family members that are selling drugs, you pick up on some of their like code words and things like that. And they're up to no good. And it's like, but you'll start deciphering, decoding basically. And so all of that is what this book was created to offer you, the individual who takes the time to read it and digest it. It's to give you wisdom. It's to give you a keen ear. It's to give you discernment into the activities of this world and to give you a perception, a way and a means to perceive the world around. Okay. And to decode the dark sayings that are all around us. When we talk about like symbols and symbology and numbers and codes and the occult and things like that, that is a language of proverbs. That is you get like basic training is like here, right here. You want to get into that stuff, start here, and start seeing how the wise speak and how they hide deeper meanings into things. That's the whole like esoteric meaning of symbols and things like that. So that is a journey for people who desire to understand. Proverbs verse 7-9. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother, for they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head and chains about thy neck. Okay, so here in context, basically Solomon is saying the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. So knowledge is just information. Then there's wisdom, and then there's understanding. You can have wisdom and not fully understand the wisdom you have. But knowledge is just information. You can be fed a whole bunch of knowledge and you don't know what to do with it. You lack wisdom. There's no application. It's like, okay, information. I don't know. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. I constantly tell people that struggle to understand the fear of the Lord in scripture is that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. It's the beginning of information. Like, it's not the fullness. You don't build anything on just fear. But fear in itself, it's like fire, right? You can be afraid to touch the fire because it will hurt you. It will burn you. Don't do it, right? But to fully have wisdom and understand the fire, you need to respect, right? But you have to have that reverential fear, so to speak, to know how to properly understand the dynamic between you and fire. Fire will burn you, you know. And so the beginning of knowledge or knowing this danger, this whatever, it starts with fear, right? So the beginning of knowledge is the fear of the Lord, God who made all things. Obviously, if he made all things, he knows all things. And if we seek knowledge to know anything, we should fear the one who made it all. At least respect. It's a fear of respect as a bare minimum. There is a creator. And it says, my son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother, for they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck. And so what is an ornament? And chains. This is like jewelry. It's the pizzazz, it's the glam, so to speak, the glitter, the shine of that decorates us. And so here Solomon is basically saying that, not to forsake the law of thy mother, that like in those days, mothers were the primary caretakers of their children, and there was counsel and teaching involved in that relationship. And so he was advising his son that these things will grace you. They will adorn your head. They will be about your neck like chains, okay. Proverbs verse 10 through 19. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path, for their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. So I want to stop here. This is at verse 16, because what's happening here, okay, here's a situation. He's giving an example of sinners enticing with these words, come with us, let us lay wait for blood. So basically to harm someone, to make someone bleed, whether it's to rob them or hurt them in some way. Let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. So basically, there are people in this world and their genius ideas are, let's find that unsuspecting old lady. Let's find that, that woman with that big purse. She was shopping at whatever, right? And what they're doing is they are lurking privately and consulting with one another to basically hurt or harm someone who is innocent. This happens a lot with children, bullies bully children. They look to see who are they gonna mess with today. It's like, yeah, this kid, he looks weird today. I don't like those shoes. I don't like him. I'm angry and I'm in a bad mood and I just feel like I want to fight with somebody. And this is a very real mentality that is very primitive, childish, absolutely childish, because you see it all the way in like elementary. You see it, bullies. And their logic is, let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down to the pit. It's like we just want to overpower, overtake them, overwhelm them. And then he says, we shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our homes with spoil. So basically, yeah, they're planning to steal. They're planning to rob someone. You have people who are privately having private conversations to harm someone that is innocent, who are willing to cause harm enough to make someone bleed. So watch out for that. And they're saying with themselves, we're going to fill our house. Like, oh man, we're going to have so much money if we do this. If we make this run of narcotics, oh, we're going to have so much money. Oh, if we do this, oh, we're going to have so much money, right? We're going to fill our house with spoil. And then it says, cast in thy lot among us. Let us all have one purse. So basically it's like, come on, you pitch in, we'll all share in the reward, because it's going to be this is a conversation that happens on multi-levels, multi-dimensional degrees of violence and theft and like greed. He says in 15, my son, walk not in the way with them, refrain thy foot from their path. So to refrain your foot from someone's path is to not walk with them. I know a lot of people out in the streets, they come from the streets, they got an uncle that is in this life, right? And here the advice is, don't walk next to them. Refrain your foot from the direction where these people are walking. That's what that means. And it says, for their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. That means their feet, that path that they walk, runs to very bad places. And they shed blood, they destroy, they kill life. Whether you think that making a delivery of drugs from one state to another and you making money, you're not harming anyone. Those drugs are harming a lot of people. What are you touching? What is your feet, walking with? What path? You're involved with drugs. All of that is harm. There's blood on your hands if you're dealing with drugs that is hurting people, including pharmaceuticals. Okay? Yeah, I said it. They kill and prescribe drugs. So, verse 17 through 19, surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird. Can you imagine, like, look, you see a bird, it's like, oh man, I want that eagle or whatever. And it's like, I'm just going to spray this, like lay this net right here. And the bird is watching you. You think that bird is ever going to stand on that thing? No, dude, no. Right? So that's kind of funny. But it says, surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lay wait for their own blood. They lurk privily for their own lives. So are the ways of every one that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. And so it's saying here, just as dumb as laying a net in front of a bird and thinking they're gonna get hurt, like, oh, and just as like futile in a way, like they lay wait for their own blood. You're in a path that is self-destructive, basically. And they lurk privy for their own lives. And your scheming and conniving is destroying your life. So are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. So, people who are willing to kill in order to obtain something, something that they don't have, that that they want, that they need more of, like money. If you're greedy of gain, you're hungry to have something urgently instead of working for it, this is your path. This is like a net spread in sight of birds. Like, you're just harming yourself.